Let's be honest, we've all been there. You're staring down a problem that's so big, so tangled up, you have absolutely no idea where to even start. Well, today, we're going to crack open a mental model that's like a secret toolkit for dealing with all that complexity. It's called Deconstruction, and it might just change how you see, well, pretty much everything, from a tough assignment at work to you yourself. Okay, let's get into it.
This right here, this is a quote from a student, and it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? That feeling of being totally overwhelmed, it's universal. It doesn't matter if it's a school paper, a huge project at work, or some personal goal. The trick isn't trying to find a bigger shovel. It's about breaking the mountain down into stones you can actually carry.
So, to see how this actually works in the real world, we're going to start with a classic example, that terrifying academic paper, and we'll see it through the eyes of an English as a second language student.
And this is the core problem right here. It's not just about getting the words right. It's about this crushing anxiety that can just paralyze you. Our source materials show that misunderstanding just one word in a prompt can stop a student dead in their tracks. They might get stuck on the very first sentence and completely miss the real point, Their progress just grinds to a halt before it even gets going.
So what are these roadblocks? Well, you're looking at them. And these aren't just little bumps in the road, they are major barriers. Words like analyze or argue have super specific meanings in the academic world, and if you don't know the rules of the game, you're just lost. It creates this vicious cycle of not knowing what to do, which means you do nothing. So how on earth do you break that cycle?
Well, you break it with a toolkit. So let's get to the solution. And we're not talking about just a few handy tips here. We're talking about a real, step-by-step process for taking a problem apart so you can actually understand what makes it tick. Okay, this lays out the whole game plan. First up, you become a detective. You dissect the prompt, highlighting all those action words, the what you actually have to do. Then you start brainstorming, connecting those instructions to your own ideas. Suddenly, those highlighted words become your key words for research. You look at other papers, not to copy them, but to understand their blueprint, their structure. And then, maybe the most important step of all, you give yourself permission to ask questions. You become your own advocate.
So you can see this is way bigger than just writing papers, right? Let's zoom out. Deconstruction is really a fundamental way of learning. It's all about breaking things down into their component parts so you can see how they work, think critically, and maybe even get a little creative.
And this is the real payoff. Remember that student from the beginning? They weren't just happy about their grade. They were relieved because the fear was gone. Deconstruction basically trades anxiety for a sense of control and confidence. It's a tool that empowers you.
Okay, so we've seen how deconstruction can help us tackle an external problem, like an essay. This whole process of breaking things down to understand them, it's incredibly powerful. But what happens if we take that same exact idea and turn it inward? What if we apply it to the most complex thing any of us will ever encounter, our own consciousness?
Now we're making a bit of a leap, I know. We're jumping from the classroom into neuroscience and philosophy. It might seem like a huge jump, but the basic question is actually the same. Can we use this systematic process to better understand who we are?
Well, according to neuroscience research, the answer is yeah, we can. We can start by breaking down the self into at least two different layers. First, there's the minimal self. That's just the raw, in-the-moment feeling of being alive. It's pure awareness of the right here, right now. But then there's the narrative self, and that's the storyteller in your head. It's the voice that weaves your past, present, and future into the story of you.
And get this isn't just some philosophical thought experiment. The source material shows that scientists are actually studying how practices like meditation can work as a deconstruction tool for our own minds. By training our attention, we can start to see these layers separately, to actually observe the storyteller doing its thing, separate from our basic awareness. It's a way to systematically explore our own inner world.
So we've seen how deconstruction can be this incredible tool for empowerment, right? For taking control of a tough assignment or getting a handle on our own minds. But here's the thing about any tool this powerful. It's neutral. A hammer can be used to build a house or to smash a window. It all depends on who's holding it and why.
And this table just lays it out so clearly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got all the good stuff we've been talking about: empowerment, critical thinking, confidence. But on the other side, you see a much darker use. Deconstruction can also be used to create doubt, to pick apart solid evidence, and to actually restrict access to knowledge. How does that even work?
Well, for that, our source material points to a really powerful real-world example from a place where the stakes are incredibly high: the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency.
Now this quote, this is where it gets really interesting. According to the source, a rule was introduced that basically deconstructed the very definition of what counts as evidence. It said that all the raw scientific data had to be made public. Sounds transparent, right? But here's the catch. A lot of crucial public health studies rely on confidential patient medical records. You can't just make that stuff public without violating privacy. So the result? Those foundational studies could just be thrown out.
So what happened here wasn't just some debate over words. According to the source, by deconstructing the term evidence in this way, it had a direct and massive impact. It limited the science the agency could even consider, and that, in turn, restricted its ability to create protective standards for the public. It's a stark example of how this tool can be weaponized to get a specific result.
Okay, so this all brings us to a really, really important point. Deconstruction shouldn't be about just tearing things down for the sake of it. That's a huge misconception. Really, it's the necessary first step you have to take before you can build something stronger, something more resilient, something better. I mean, think about the biggest challenges staring us in the face today. Climate change, social justice, sustainability, or even just the constant flood of information we have to deal with every single day. We can't solve these massive, complicated problems by just charging at them head-on. We have to deconstruct them. We have to break them down, see how all the parts are connected, find the hidden assumptions, and figure out where we can actually make a difference. It's not just a good skill to have, it's an essential survival skill. And you know, for just a second, let's pull back the curtain on this explainer itself. Did it feel kind of like a story, with a beginning, a middle, and an end? Well, that was on purpose. Research shows that when our brains get information in the form of a story, we process it differently. We're more engaged, and we're less likely to argue with it. So, in a way, we've been using a narrative to deconstruct the idea of deconstruction for you.
And this right here is the ultimate point. The reason you take a watch apart isn't to end up with a pile of tiny gears. It's to understand how it tells time. The whole goal of deconstruction is to gain that deeper insight, to see the entire system with fresh eyes, and to clear the way so you can build something even better in its place.
So, I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. Take a look around at your job, your life, your own beliefs. What's that one big, scary, complicated thing you've been avoiding? And what would happen if you stopped trying to conquer it all at once and instead just started taking it apart piece by piece? What in your world needs to be deconstructed?